Good morning. My name is Kumi Goranson, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of Code RVA Regional High School. We are thrilled to host you for this event today. If you are not yet familiar with Code RVA, we are a computer science focused high school located in Richmond that serves 14 local school divisions. The computer science skills our students learn along with internships in 11th and 12th grade are preparing the next generation of leaders for computer careers in computer science and technology. Our school has taken an innovative approach to how and when students learn by using a blended learning model, which incorporates the very best of face-to-face instruction with personalized online instruction. Thanks to a variance granted by the Virginia Department of Education, our school has been able to remain open since March, and we are teaching and learning completely online now. We actually have many of our Code RVA Raptors and their teachers here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. We miss you in the school building. Thank you to everyone for joining our school community today. And now I'd like to introduce you to Chris Dovey, the Executive Director of one of our most valued partners, Code Virginia. Thank you so much to Chris and his team for including us in today's event.
And thank you, Kumi. I'm Chris Dovey. I'm the Executive Director of Code Virginia. We're a statewide computer science education advocacy, teacher professional development, and direct student programming organization. We were one of the founding partners of Code RVA, so we're very proud to be here today. First, I'd like to take a second to welcome some of our special guests attending, and I'd like to thank the students of Code RVA High School for their patience as I run through our list of VIPs. I'm not going to pause for applause since you're all muted, but our guests should assume that each receives a standing ovation. I'd like to welcome first Secretary of Education Atif Carney, Virginia Superintendent of Public Instruction James Lane, Deputy Superintendent for Innovation, and a name Code RVA students will remember as their former principal, Michael Bowling, and Virginia STEM Coordinator Chuck English. We're also joined by Virginia STEM Director Dr. Tina Maglemont, and the state's computer science specialist who will be joining Code RVA as a teacher very soon, Mr. Tim Ellis. We also have a number of members of the Code RVA board, including Ann Coker of Chesterfield School Board, Dr. Autumn Neighbors, Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Richmond Public Schools, Dr. Carrie Weston, Superintendent of Dinwiddie Public Schools, and Betty T. Haney of Dinwiddie School Board, We also have Amy Griffin, Superintendent of Cumberland County Public Schools, and man, that would have been a long drive, so luckily we are virtual. We also have representatives of Code Virginia's board, Dr. Jared Cotton, Superintendent of Chesapeake Public Schools, and our Vice Chairman, Greg Samuels, Code Virginia's Director of Education, Rebecca Dovey, and Director of Children's Education, Maggie Smith. They're also with us. And we have some very special guests from a very small, of course, online book retailer you may all have heard of, Amazon. Ardeen Williams is Amazon's Vice President of Workforce Development, and Matt Wisner is Senior Manager with Amazon's Future Engineer, program devoted to ensuring computer science literacy for all, just like Code Virginia and Code RVA. So thank you for all being here. I'm certain there will be lots of other video conferences you could have picked to attend today, and I'm happy that you chose ours. Before we introduce our next guest, I'd like to say a word about why we're here virtually at Code RVA High School this morning. This past fall, Code Virginia and the Virginia Department of Education, along with the Science Museum of Virginia, we sponsored a competition for students around the state, asking them to create a game, an app, a video, or draw a picture, or even write an essay, however they chose to best describe what computer science meant to them in their world and in their neighborhood. There were many, many entries, total of 14 winning individuals or classrooms in the Computer Science in Your Neighborhood competition. That was announced in December during Computer Science Education Week, and 2 each were representing for each of the 8 superintendent regions of the state. We'd hoped to visit some of those classrooms, and the First Lady, Pamela Northam, was excited to visit them with us, obviously. The world had other plans, and now most of us are venturing only about as far as our mailbox, most days at least. But the First Lady didn't want to let circumstances prevent us from recognizing our Computer Science in Your Neighborhood winners, and she asked if we could visit at least one of the winning schools with a message of hope and encouragement for the winners, for the winner and her classmate, and for all Virginia learners. With that, I'd like to introduce a very special person who we are extremely grateful for all of her support of computer science education statewide, Virginia's First Lady, Pamela Northam.
Good morning, everyone. Chris, thank you so much for the kind introduction. I'd like to say a big cyber hello to everyone out there. I'm so glad you could join us. And I'd like to take a moment to thank all the Virginia education leaders that you just mentioned for joining us this morning to celebrate our terrific students and future computer scientists for all you do, especially during this difficult time. As Chris said, I'm sorry I couldn't be celebrating with you in your school today, but as chair of the Virginia STEM Education Commission and an old science teacher, I really miss my students and I can't wait to get back in the classroom any chance I can get. Now though, as you know, it's not safe for us to gather together quite yet. And although we can't be together in person because of technological innovations by computer scientists, we can all do this together virtually. So as Chris said, several months ago, Code Virginia launched the Computer Science in Your Neighborhood competition, asking students across the Commonwealth to answer that question, what does computer science mean to you? I don't think any of us knew at that time just how completely our lives are going to change in a few short months, or how more than ever now we would come to rely on technology to complete our work, our homework, and to keep in touch with loved ones. This technology revolution has given us so many remarkable tools and creative opportunities. Most importantly, in these unprecedented times such as these, it's keeping us all connected, just like today. And it was all created by brilliant people just like you, students who once had a dream. As Steve Jobs said, the ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. So now I'm happy to congratulate the winner of the 2020 Computer Science in the Neighborhood competition at your school, Kaylee Nichols. So congratulations to Kaylee. I can hear the screams and yells in the background. Only a freshman this year, but the judges were so impressed by her incredible essay that she won out of the many entries. So Kaylee, I'm honored to meet you today. Can you tell us a little bit about your essay and what computer science means to you?
Thank you. So the purpose of my essay was to describe how I use computer science in my everyday life. So it was a really great topic for me because I go to an amazing technology school called Code RVA that integrates computer science with online schooling and a regular school day. I've become really accustomed to using a computer now, and I'm very, very comfortable with it now that I've gone to Code RVA. So I decided to write my essay on the topic of how I use computer science in my everyday life, because technology is really present in what I do every day. I use a computer every day for school, and it's become a necessity for completing schoolwork and connecting with my teachers.
It really, it's super important now more than ever, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my school was really well prepared to switch to completely online learning. As a student at Code RVA, I've been learning to adapt to changes very quickly. I was already doing most of my schoolwork online, so the transition was really quick and seamless for me. I'm able to work from home very well, and the only thing that I really miss is all of my friends and fellow students.
Understandable. So can you tell me a little bit about how your teachers have helped you in this transition to home?
Yeah, so especially a lot of my teachers have reached out to us and they've asked us how we're doing, how we're feeling so far. They've given us some things to think about, how we structure our day, how we look, what our work hours are from the morning to the night. They help us not stress, and they help us to know that they're still there for us, even though we may be a couple miles away or another school district away.
That's great. I know your teachers are working really hard to help that right now, that's for sure. So tell me a little bit about your plans for the future.
Well, I haven't really quite decided what I want to do in the future yet. I have a really broad idea. I have many ideas, and there are many interesting things that I might want to do and major in college. I'm very glad that I've been able to learn a lot about computer science through the school because it has opened up so many opportunities for me that I might just want to go into a computer science field when I get older.
Would you ever have imagined this kind of opportunity before?
No. I'm so glad I go to Code RVA now.
That's great. I'm glad it's opening up many doors, and I know your future is very bright.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to say to fellow students about computer science in your neighborhood?
Be thankful for your teachers that are helping you through this tough time, and rely on them when you feel like you are alone and you feel like you're isolated. Know that you have fellow students and teachers who are here to help.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's really important now more than ever. Thank you, Kaylee. That's terrific. Well, I really appreciate that. In fact, to ensure that all Virginia students have the same opportunities and access to computer science education and career paths, this last year, the governor committed over $1 million in state grants to implement the nation's first mandatory K-12 computer science standards. So you don't have to wait till high school, Kaylee. The first state in the nation to do this, and it's part of the reason we're now called the Digital Dominion, and many of the folks online here today helped with that, and we're so appreciative. We can't move forward if half of us are held back. I often like to say we need minds of all kinds, and the Commonwealth is committed to providing quality STEM education opportunities for all Virginia students, no matter who they are or where they live. It was Virginia's commitment to our workforce of the future that attracted Amazon's HQ2. And speaking of Amazon, that brings me to another reason why we're virtually gathered here today. And I am thrilled to announce, and a show commitment to their new Virginia home, Amazon is going to donate $3.9 million for computer science education. Isn't that amazing? I can hear the roars of applause again. This donation to Code Virginia will supplement the Virginia's grants to expand computer science education in the Commonwealth over the next 3 years, and will ultimately benefit 500,000 students, provide training for 12,000 teachers in 700 underserved communities throughout Virginia. Because most of our students are now learning from home due to COVID-19 school closures, just like Kaylee, Amazon's first-year donation of $1.3 million will provide virtual computer science curriculum and online training, as well as unplugged resources to thousands of our teachers and students. We're so grateful to Amazon for making this generous and smart investment in Virginia's workforce in the future, and helping us to prepare our students with the skills they need to compete in 21st century jobs. So now I'm pleased to introduce someone very special, Ardeen Williams, Vice President of Workforce and Development for Amazon's HQ2. Ardeen is Vice President of Workforce Development for Amazon. In her role, she advises teams and businesses across Amazon on talent attraction and development. Ardeen's work focuses heavily on accelerating Amazon's upskilling initiative to retrain, a lot of employees, including Career Choice, which is an interesting program. Previously, Ardeen was Vice President of Talent Acquisition for Amazon Web Services, where she scaled up the recruiting capability and the pipeline for military and veteran talent, which I know is important to her because she's former military, just like the governor is too. Ardeen has more than 35 years of leadership experience across the tech industry, and I really am looking forward to hearing from her today. She began her career, and I want to hear more about this, as a commissioned officer in the U.S. Army Signal Corps. So Ardeen, thanks so much for joining us today, and on behalf of all Virginians, thank you for this incredible gift. See, Ardeen, are you there? We might have lost Ardeen. I know she was going to answer some terrific questions for me. So when we get her back online, I know she really wants to answer some of the questions that your fellow students sent in. So we'll talk a little bit about those until we get Ardeen back online. Right now, I really wanted to ask her one of the questions that came from one of your fellow students, and that was Ethan. And he asked, how did you get to where you are now? So I know many of our leaders that are online with us today would have many different answers to that. And for me, I guess I can answer that, that started a long time ago with my love of animals. You don't think that has much to do with STEM, but it really did, because I really wanted to love and care for animals. And I thought, maybe I'll become a vet, because I became really interested in medicine at that time and how to really care for them in a larger way. And that turned into caring for people and learning about biology and physiology. So I became a therapist, which was a lot of fun. It's how I met my husband in pediatrics, actually. And then later, when we were able to transition out of the Army and come back home here to America, I had 2 children by then and a different schedule. And I actually ended up helping in one of the schools nearby, and that led to teaching, and eventually became a science educator. Really fell in love with that as well. And I taught for about 12 years. And then as I was kind of semi-retiring, trying to move away, but I didn't want to leave my students entirely, I started working for an environmental nonprofit, doing some education work for them as well, so I could keep my hands in with my wonderful students, which was a lot of fun. So I know our dean will have a terrific story about that as well, but it's important to think, you all at your stage, you have the opportunity to go anywhere. You have such an incredible opportunity, and it's a good time to use this time while you're home to really think out of the box in ways of what you might want to do in the future. Who knows if you might be the next person, the first person to land on Mars. You might be the next Katherine Johnson or Jane Goodall. Certainly with this virus, we're thinking a lot about virology and immunology and epigenetics and all these things that we're hearing so much on the news, and how important science is in our world today. So I think we had another question from one of your fellow students today. And that was, I think, from Christopher. And he said, "How are you doing?" And I know I wish I could hear from each and every one of you how you are doing during this important time. I know this is a really difficult and frightening time in a lot of ways because we're out of our normal schedules, but it also provides, as I said, a great opportunity for creativity as well. Are we getting our dean online?
I think we may have her.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Great, we're so happy to have you on board. We just made the wonderful announcement about the incredible generous donation that Amazon has made. And I wanted to ask you some questions from our students, for both of us, but for you explicitly, what do you think Amazon hopes to achieve with this incredible gift?
Well, I think that Kaylee said it extraordinarily well. We're going to hire more than 25,000 people in our second headquarters in the Commonwealth, and having people who understand the role that technology plays and how it integrates across everything that we do is incredibly important in schools and programs that make it accessible across every different area of study is critical. And that's really where Code Virginia comes in. The capability that Code Virginia brings to schools like Code RVA and other schools and teachers in the Commonwealth is incredibly important. And it really is about creating that pipeline of talent of the people that are going to come work with us and at other employers across the Commonwealth over the course of the future. That's so true. And I know while we were trying to connect with you, I read a question from Ethan at the class at school, and he said, "How did you get to where you are now?" And I thought that would be an interesting question for you. That's so. Just in hindsight, I think our careers always look very well knitted together. I started my career as you had read, in the United States Army because the Army paid my tuition through school. I would not have been able to get a college degree to complete my college degree without that assistance. And I ended up. That was true, sorry, for the governor as well, by the way. Yeah, and he and I've had the opportunity to talk about that. It was an incredible privilege. And I ended up in the Signal Corps, which was a very technical branch, and learned an awful lot about engineering. And that technical piece really complemented my liberal arts background well. And it set the stage for me to move into a career that moved me back and forth. And so really I credit the experience I got in the military and the technical training in really advancing my career. It's interesting, you mentioned engineers, but it's only 13% of engineers are women. Right. And I think it's 26% are computer scientists. So it's really interesting, but we want to make that much more equitable because we need, as I said, minds of all kinds right now, the challenges that face us in the 21st century. Absolutely. And Kaylee talked about, hey, there are lots of things that I'm interested in. And I think the great thing about computer science is even, coding is one part of it, but the power of algorithms, of breaking problems down, of tackling things logically, serves everyone well across every field of study. And so there's tremendous value in STEM education, regardless of your final career destination.
That's so true. And now more than ever, as we look at looking for solutions to this pandemic, we're definitely looking to evidence-based science in so many different areas that we had mentioned earlier. And I'm glad you mentioned your, literature background as well. It's such an important part of balancing all this out. And many people come to engineering and computer science from other avenues, my daughter included. We kind of have a STEM family. As you know, the governor, the only governor who's also a doctor, was pediatric neurologist. My son is a neurosurgeon, and my daughter actually is a woman who codes. So I think we talked about this once, and she actually did not start out that way. She started out at the University of Virginia with a media studies degree, and as quite a good artist actually, and a German degree as well. And she talks about coding as speaking another language. So I think it helps to train her brain in doing her artwork and her creative thinking and problem solving, and also to think analytically and in another language is really important as well. So I have another question for you, and that's, what do you say that Amazon is looking for in future employees, and what advice would you give our high school students of today?
So Amazon is a company that looks for people who think big, who are willing to tackle problems for customers and work collaboratively. So work together to figure out from that problem and working backward how best to tackle it. And so some of the skills that students are learning today in Code RVA are incredibly important. I talked about algorithms. How do you break that problem down? How do you experiment and not get discouraged when the path you go down turns out not to be the right one, right? So you come back and try again. And so that collaborative spirit, working backward from the customer and really thinking big and creatively to solve problems is huge.
Yeah, it's so strategic, and I'm glad you are looking for that. So what advice would you have for them as they move forward in their careers?
I think that the second piece for me career-wise has been to stay curious. I think that when you come upon something that confuses you or frustrates you or that you don't understand, dig in and learn more. Because you'll be surprised at what you learn, and all those small pieces of information or big pieces serve you well down the road, because you never know when that one thing that you learned is the key to another problem that you're trying to solve.
That's true. And I think you and I, having so many different career paths coming together, we've learned something from each and every one of them moving forward. And I think times like this, when we feel sort of cocoon, for lack of a better word, at home, it's a great opportunity for expanding our self-knowledge and to really reach out in ways you never would have thought of before and become experts in new ways and new things to learn. So I always love being a lifelong learner, and I know you do too, so that's a great opportunity as well. Well, thank you so much, and we cannot thank you enough for this amazing, amazing gift to the Commonwealth and to the children who are going to do so much with that in the future, I know. So thank you, my dear. Appreciate that. I know we need to let our Code RVA students get back to their virtual classes, and I want to just be sure to tell all the students watching today that despite these challenging times, please keep up the great work that you're doing in school. As we said, we never know where this is going to take you. Your future is bright, and we need brilliant minds like you to take us into the future and to help us to solve the problems that we're facing. To the teachers who are following along today, thank you so very much for stepping in at a time when we need you the most. You are our superheroes, and we thank you for all that you're doing for your students to encourage them and to keep them going. And I want to be sure to encourage you to make sure that you take advantage of this incredible opportunity of Virginia's and Amazon's investment to register for that free training and professional development and opportunities at Code. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. Continue the social distancing. I know it's not easy right now, but if we work together, the time period we have away from each other will be shorter, and the sooner we can get back together again. I have two First Lady role models to finish us out today. One of them, Michelle Obama, who says, "Courage is contagious." And if we're courageous, then that makes people around us a little braver, a little kinder, and the world a little bit better. And Eleanor Roosevelt, who it was said of her that she said she would rather light a candle than curse the darkness. And I think all of us can find a way to light a candle right now and to do something. All of us can do something, whether that's making masks, whether it's creating code, helping someone younger than you or someone older, staying home, making those sacrifices right now means so much, and we thank you very much. Take care of yourselves, and I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you all.